When you talk about domestic violence services, initially we were called the Lancaster Shelter for Abused Women, and the doors officially opened on September 1st of 1976. And during that time, domestic violence wasn't something that was talked about readily. And so with the help of Community Action Program, that's how the first shelter became a reality.
The reason why I got involved, because I knew that the problem, first of all, existed. I knew it was a need for women to have a safe place, because cases would come before me, and women would come and I would have to send them back home after they would file a charge. There was no other place to send them.
When I started in law enforcement 35 years ago, there just really, this is before the internet, but there just was not a whole lot of information out there. And once organizations like this got together and started getting that information out there, that also affected a lot of law changes by the early 1990s.
It's amazing how we have stepped up, and we are making sure that the message gets out about domestic violence. And it's not just in the city, it's widespread. It's everywhere.
Being a domestic violence victim is hard. It's hard. There's still a lot of stigma that prevails. There's still a lot of victim blaming that takes place. There's still a shortage of resources.
Doing this for so many years and interviewing women to go into our transitional housing. They're from all over, and it's all different cultures and religions and economic backgrounds. It's not just a city problem.
The clients who come into the emergency shelter are unique in the sense that they are experiencing homelessness along with domestic violence. Sometimes people have been experiencing violence for their entire lives. So these are some very, very serious things that we're working on as an agency with most of the clients who come through our emergency shelter doors.
I was a victim of domestic violence in the late 80s and early 90s, and I came here after one particularly horrible night where my batterer beat me very badly.
I lost my daughter, May, who was 17, through domestic violence, and that took this mom out of my house onto anywhere that would hear my story and hear May's story. And the night she died, I promised her if she died, I'd be her voice, and that's what I'm doing.
Physical, mentally, emotional abuse. And a lot of it was happening in front of my child. Even though he was 5 months, I didn't like that kind of environment. I grew up in that kind of environment, and I can say I wasn't a very stable child growing up, and I didn't want that for my kid.
And I couldn't take it anymore. It was not just for, I was in jeopardy, and my son was too. And then I decided I just grab him one day, and we left with nothing, just with the clothes on we had on our back and nothing else.
The night before we came into shelter, there was an extremely violent incident at home where I, actually got up the courage to burst into the room in the middle of my mother's beating, thinking maybe I could do something about it.
It had become physical, but most of the 20 years it was verbal and just aggressive, controlling. What I didn't really understand was abuse until I started realizing it. And then right before I came here, it became physical.
I left knowing I was going to die, but if I'm going to die anyway, I might as well go away. I might as well not be here when I die. That's how I got connected. Called my mother that morning after my husband left for work. And she called the shelter in her area in Massachusetts, who put her in touch with the Lancaster shelter. So I called the shelter, and they told me to come in right away. got the kids ready, packed a bag, and came here.
When we walked in the door, it was like a house. And we could smell breakfast cooking, bacon and eggs, and there was laughter. The feeling that I had walking into this place was immediately that it was safe and secure. It felt comfortable.
They gave me an opportunity to know that I can do it on my own by leaving and not staying in an abusive situation. They gave me hope, and they gave my kids safety at that time.
They've supported me long, only technically stayed here 3 months. However, here 6 years later, I'm about to graduate, and they've been supportive in whatever way they could throughout all that whole process.
If I am where I am today, it's because of them, and I will always be grateful.
When I moved into the shelter, I didn't have a job, no type of income. Same week that I got into the shelter, I got called in for a job. Like, so far for me right now, I actually got on my own and doing everything the right way now.
People that look at me say, you went to the top quick. A lot of people, you look so happy. On Facebook, people look happy, but they're not. But people actually know that I'm really happy.
And my kids loved it there. Like, my son didn't want to leave. All of a sudden, our counselor became Aunt Rashida, Aunt Becky, Aunt Bonnie. So it built them on a family matter, too.
It gave me the strength that I can do it, that I can work. Even though if I have to work harder, but it's possible to work and support my 2 girls. And I feel much better. I feel happy. And even though I gotta work harder, to be where I am now, coming home, I feel that I'm coming to a safe place. And it feels great.
It's refreshing to know that the organization is well run and that the people in charge of it are fully committed, and that's something that every city needs, and it's good to know that they're serving the city and the county as well as they are.
Doctors, legal advice, help, counseling.
Oftentimes my involvement with clients is after that crisis where they may come in for a protection order, and then they go and they have to resolve the rest of the relationship issues, and that's where I come in.
An important part of helping our families to heal is to help them to begin to learn to relax and enjoy one another and have fun together, and to have their relationship restored and to restore the parent-child bond.
They have a great children's program. You walk in at any given time, and the people that are clients are happy because they know they're loved and protected. I think protection's the biggest thing, is safety.
One of the most amazing things about working at the shelter is seeing the joy on the kids' faces when they come in and they see our children's wing, and they get to experience a very safe place, and it might be the first stable place that they've stayed in a very long time.
Here I am as a new CEO. Here we are at this milestone in DVS's lifespan, and it's a good time to think about where are we going? What's the future look like? What do the next 40 years look like? And so for me, especially coming from my own perspective and experience as a DV survivor, it is how do we prevent? How do we reach out to men who are committing 90% of the violence that we encounter in our communities? Even as we're helping all the women who unfortunately do experience domestic violence, how do we prevent other women from going through the same thing?
So it's been a real blessing, and you've seen people who've come into the facility where they don't even have the self-esteem or feel good enough to even look you in the eye, and then to see someone whose head's always hung low, and then within a week or two you see their head rise, their chest pumps out, and they can smile again. That's about change. It may be measured differently. I may not be saying whatever these outcomes may be, but you've made a difference. If we don't speak up about violence, sexual violence, the different discriminations, then we're not going to be a better community and not a better world. So if you really want to make a change, you have to be a part of that change.